Okay, I think it's exactly 5, so I feel that we should give people, a little bit more time. Not everybody is quite as timely as all of you, but I'm excited that you are so timely. It's so nice to be in this virtual room of friends. It is really it is so nice to see all of you, those that I can see with your cameras on. It is really a pretty amazing thing.
Good to see you too, Susie.
Thank you. I should, you know what? I didn't develop any good like a pre-Zoom, early Zoom pattern. Feels like in this time I should be really getting good at it. So I guess, I'll just say, hello, it's nice to see you.
And tonight, the country is facing more than 15.5 million confirmed cases.
It's a good time to remind you to mute yourselves.
If you're not going to speak, could you please mute your microphone?
Okay.
When you figure out how to do it. What else? What other pattern? Oh, a thing. This is real Zoom land pattern I have developed. This is a good one. My friends, in this Zoom virtual world, we spend so much time sitting down. I find that I'm always sitting down. In fact, last night I watched a Zoom and I was laying down. So I would just like to remind you that you are in the comfort of your own space and you are welcome to get up at any time during this and stretch out. Sometimes it's nicer for the ears and the mind when the body gets to, shake it out. So feel free. You don't even have to turn off your camera to do that, because if you leave your camera on while you're doing that, maybe somebody else will see you and they will remember that they too have a body and we're not just these virtual selves in space, which seems like a pretty good thing to remember. And that might be, what other pattern do I have? 5:02. I feel like at 5:03 is a good time, or I could slow roll into how just super great it is to be here and to be talking about the Rakow Commission, which many of you that are in town and are able to attend our regular Rakow Commission lectures, which there will be, but it will be virtual. It will be in the early months of 2021. If you've come to that, you've heard me say before that working on the Rakow Commission every year is one of my very most favorite things. It's one of the greatest things that I get to do. And I think it is one of the most amazing things that this incredible institution of the Corning Museum of Glass does. So if you are not somebody that's able to be here all the time and you're like, Rakow Commission, I don't know. I was brought in by those great emails that the museum sent me. I will just tell you a little bit about what the Rakow Commission is. It was founded in 1986 by 2 incredible donors to the museum. Leonard, oh gosh. Carol, bail me out, I got nervous. Wait.
Juliet K. Leonard S. and Juliet K.
Thank you. Thank you. Rakow, who are also who the library is named after and who have established with their donation to the museum so many incredible things that persist, continue to persist and give. And the Rakow Commission amongst them is, it was designed as funds to commission an artist. These days, it's typically an emerging artist or an artist otherwise not represented in the museum's collection to make a work for the museum's collection. And over the years, it has brought really, really incredible objects into the museum's collection. A notable example was Rui Sasaki's Liquid Sunshine just a few years ago, which hopefully you got to see in person. Maybe one day again, we will see things in person and you will see that. Or David Colton last year with his glass cannabis pipe, the first cannabis pipe acquired by any art museum in the world. Pretty incredible things. And the objects themselves are incredible, but what is even more incredible and is a thing that often is just something that I get to experience is the relationship, the real relationship building that goes on between the museum, often mostly in the guise of the curator, but broadly, there's so many people involved, and the artist who makes the work. And that, that process of building something kind of together, the Rakow Commission isn't designed to just be another one, make me a blue one. It's not designed to be that. It's designed instead to create an opportunity that might not otherwise exist in the marketplace for an artist to expand and stretch the way that they're thinking about their work. And I think that's the case this time. And that, like, that growth, that thinking, that like learning to see glass in a new light is the museum's mission, but it is certainly in practice in the Rakow Commission. And so it is my always something I love to work on, but it is especially really wonderful. Here is a gift that COVID gave us. It is a wonderful thing that today I get to share some of that, my very most favorite part of my job with all of you, in this members only sneak peek, because we are meeting with, did you guess it from the emails? We are meeting with an incredible artist, Anjali Srinivasan, who is so unbelievably accomplished. She's going to tell you all about like her various accomplishments. Her big lecture, I should say, where you're really going to see her full artistic development will be in the opening months of the new year when the piece is installed. But right now we're going to have a little behind the scenes, and I will just tell you, originally from India, if you didn't guess. Her undergrad, she did some college studies in India, and then her undergrad at Alfred, so just down the road from here. Her graduate work at RISD, some really incredible research that I find inspirational every day in between. An apprenticeship in Sweden. Then she founded Chochama Studios in Chennai, and Dubai, and Bangalore is now where it's based. Really, like, really incredible person who uses her making to expand opportunities. And Chochama, which, listen, you guys, it's the first night of Hanukkah. I always want to call it Chochama because that's the way that it goes. Is a socially responsible, creative glass business that's designed to create opportunities for craftsmen. And we'll hear more about that. And since 2017, Anjali has been a full-time professor, head of department at MassArt in Boston. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, great. And so the reason that we are here giving you this behind the scenes, one of them is, you know, that we are in this, like, we're in COVID, and the supply chain issues across the world means that everything takes longer. Blowing glass in the midst of a respiratory pandemic also presents a few issues. So this gives us this great time to check in, and I should just say, my friends, this is like really, really special. It's not just special because I'm sharing this thing that's secret usually between me and the artist, but it is like bravery. You know, if any of you have ever made anything or worked on a big project, and to invite people into the middle of your process, in the middle before it's done, is not like a thing, you know, that I couldn't ask most artists to do that. So that's another testament to who Anjali is, her approach to her work, all of it, that she's not just willing to do this, but actually, you know, I could do it like this and I could do it like that. And it has some really great things together. So here's how this is going to work. Anjali and I are going to talk. We're going to show you some things. We encourage you to ask questions. Please do it in the chat. I'm going to try and see them as we go. But Carol Ann Fabian, who, you guys, she's my boss, is gonna maybe jump in and let me know if I missed any good ones. And then maybe if there's time at the end, we can have a little more conversation as well. And we're going to look at some slides. We're going to watch a couple of videos, and then Anjali's going to take us into the studio. I mean, she's there already, but she's going to take us more in and show us what she's up to. So without further ado, here we go. So Anjali, I just said a bunch of things about you. And if somebody were saying all those things about me, I might get like a little shy. But why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, you know, why, how you got there, whatever you want to tell us, a little bit about yourself.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Is my mic doing good? Awesome. Well, firstly, thank you for coming. This is new to me, so I am so excited and sweating. I am very nervous. You should know that, but I am very excited to be here. I'm super interested in the sort of new opportunities that remoteness brings. I live half my life remotely because my business is set out in India and I'm trying to run it from here. So I'm very interested in the sort of like, when you're not there, what does it mean to do something? So this is very exciting for me. Thank you for coming. I'm in Boston, Susie, ending the end of the semester, coming to the end of my semester. You're right, I started out in India. And my background is in a version of product design. So I went to design school. And originally what I used to do was to travel to villages all over the country. So if folks want to show us the first slide, I'd like to, is that okay? Can we start that?
Yeah.
Cool. I just want to show you, I put some slides for us together. So my introduction, like this is how I define myself. This is where I started. So I feel like this is the best intro I could make to myself. I traveled all over India to different villages and just studied all sorts of crafts. So on the top, you see metal casting. On the bottom, you see basket making. So it was just going to villages, living with craftspeople, learning how they mine their raw material, learning how they use their hands to transform something, learning the context within which their creative enterprise finds a home, and learning about how difficult it is to sustain craftsmanship in a world that's changing so rapidly. And I feel like a lot of who I am comes from that space. I don't know if that like describes where I am and how I came here, but for me, that's pretty much, if I think about why I am here, that's why I'm here.
I love it. And okay, so you were looking at all of these different crafts all over the place, but how did you get into glass? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to design school, and you know, our goal was like, oh, you have to be able to design XYZ for the export market. So, you know, I'll give you an example. One of my projects
Hi,
was,
Sarah, this is Barb Ferber. I don't know, I talked to.
oh, sorry. Okay, I thought someone was talking to me. So one of my projects was design zodiac jewelry for the Scandinavian market, priced between 6 and 8 euros or something. Like that's normally what I was trained for. One of the projects I was doing was with the glass company. So it was a company that had a factory in Chandigarh, and I was supposed to design tableware for them, and I sucked at it. It was the first time like I was going, I can design in anything. I'm so cool. Like I am good at what I can do. I got like the AutoCAD going. I'm all hip. I go there and I'm like, oh crap, I can't produce a glass design because I have no sense of how this material even functions. So I landed up going to villages and learning from craftspeople. So if you want to go to the next slide, which has some videos.
It could be big, right? Or yeah, can you make that? There you go.
Oh,
go on, Anjali.
So I work with different types of craft communities. I would go into, this was a village of lamp workers, where they just produced components. They produced those little rhinestones that you find in costume jewelry all around the world. And I went there and I started working with these people and designing things for them. And then all of a sudden I realized, wait, you know, this is great. This is all giving me a great sense of what to do with glass, but it's also very hard for me to distance myself from like the social and economic concerns that come up with living in that way. So for example, I would do design and technical development projects. So if we can go to the next slide, please. This was bead and bangle makers at a furnace. Essentially, like I would run workshops where we would say, okay, so you know how to make a bead. Let's figure out how to do a different thing. Let's figure out how to make a different product. Where you were earning 30 cents a piece, now you can earn like $2 a piece. This helps you sustain your craft. Also, we were developing sort of accessible technology like portable furnaces. The picture that you see on the bottom left is a portable furnace that costs less than $50 for someone to make in their village and go to any craft fair and produce bangles on the spot for consumer. So a lot of what I started doing through my introduction of craft and through my design knowledge is, well, how can I use those two to help someone earn a better living, or gain more self-esteem, or be more happy in life, if that makes sense. And that's how I got into glass.
Love it. And Anjali, there was a question that came in that is a good one, I think. So, which is that India is not known for equitable treatment of women. Not that it's worse than the West. How do you gain credibility and navigate the gendered culture, especially in villages?
Well, so here's the thing, right? A significant number of the communities that practice glass or even any craft is rural. They're not like established in big cities where women go out to work. So when I walked into villages as what was I, like 20, maybe I was 19 or 20, and a woman who is urban, who is educated, who goes to college, clearly has means, and also during that time, a woman who is from an entirely different religion. A lot of these craft communities were Muslim and I'm Hindu. So for them to be like, oh my God, protective upper class Hindu girl it was very hard for me to earn trust. It was very hard for me to be taken seriously. And honestly, I think after like 20 years of getting taken seriously, so I remember the first few times I went and they were like, she's just gonna give up. She's just visiting. She's a tourist. And they were like, wait a minute, she's sitting with us as the bench and trying to make a mold. Okay, she's weird. Okay, this is just a hobby. She's very rich and she just has time to do this. Oh no, she's actually showing up at the craft fair with us and helping us sell stuff. Oh, she's actually training us. Oh, she's getting us health insurance. Oh, and then it starts that way. And then they're like, can you tell us what you think of this? Oh, I have this choice to make. And then it slowly goes. So I would say, sure, there are initial barriers to a gender, a religion, a caste, and in this country, I'm brown and I'm an immigrant, and like there's a whole conversation to be talked about in terms of race. But I think everywhere that I have gone, I have always felt like an outsider, but instead of, and this might just be because my dad was in the Navy and I moved around a lot, but instead of feeling like that's a disadvantage, I've always felt like that's liberating. I'm an outsider. I have nothing here. I can just do what I need to do and what I want to do and build the most honest equations. So I hope that approach has helped me overcome some of that inequality and, fear and just hesitance and mistrust of an outsider. I hope. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that answered the question. It gave actually gives a good bridge. You just talked so much about what your approach is and how you think about things, but my next question was going to be like, what motivates you to make work and what are you thinking about? But I think you might have just covered.
So yeah, the first thing that motivates me is, gee, what I'm doing, does it make a difference? Like, how does what I do change anything around me? And that change could be empowering, it could be norm critical, it could be changing perceptions, it could be changing the situational reality of something, it could be changing the history, it could be changing a technology, whatever it is. I have to ask myself, well, how does what I do change something around me? And I feel like that is like a primary motivation for me because of the background I came from or my introduction to glass. But the other thing I can think of is human presence. Like for me, because I grew up in India, and for those of you who have visited India or who are aware of the culture, everything's very tangible and sensory. There's no clear line or boundary between anything. So everything is everything. And I grew up in a situation where I didn't recognize the arts as a thing, because my grandmom was wearing silk saris and I was getting leather footwear sewn on the side of the street, and I got to play with street toys that were elaborately wooden, handcrafted, painted things. And these are normal. Like, I'm a normal middle class person from India. So these were normal, right? So I feel like for me that the sort of Western modernist distance that we've established between person and artwork, I don't have it. That's just like big gaping hole in Anjali here. So for me, human presence in the work is super important, Susie. Like for me, an object is unfulfilled if a human cannot touch it, if it doesn't age with the person, if it doesn't erode, if it doesn't mutate, if it doesn't evolve. It cannot be a self-contained thing. That to me is really important. And I guess the third thing I would pick is material transformation, just watching people transform the most humble materials into the most incredible objects. I invest a lot in discovery of stuff in my studio. Like I need to make something super original and super transformational within the granular details of my process. I would say those are the three things that motivate me.
I mean, I think it makes sense. And you described this like separation between, person and object, or art and life, or whatever the purpose that you just said, as being a whole inside of you. And I would say that there's a whole body of literature and several different artistic movements and otherwise that I would say that are aimed at closing that gap, and that glass as a practice, because of the way that it operates as an adjacent world to capital A fine art, is already like closes that gap. So maybe you found a very good space for yourself to work in that. Okay, so we could talk about that. Really, we could talk about that, Anjali and I should tell you that another one of these like great COVID things, I feel like all day I'm like, great things about 2020. You didn't know that's what you signed up.
We need some of that right now. We need to hear all the great things about 2020.
Well, a great thing about it is that, alongside the Rakow Commission, a thing that the museum does that is a real, like, is an incredible contribution, I think, is to make a video about the artist and the artwork. And the videos are really good. You can watch them on YouTube. They get lots of views. I think they do a really nice framing of the artist and the way they operate in the world. This year, as you might imagine, it's a little bit different making a video, where we would have liked to have gone to travel to Anjali's studio for a couple of days in August. We didn't get to do that. And instead we have these weekly check-ins. So we've actually had a lot more time to really, I mean, I don't know if you could tell, Anjali and I, we have a lot of energy. We're both people.
We talk really fast. We wave our hands around.
I forgot to tell you guys that we do both talk really fast, and you please chat if you want us to slow down. We will try, Okay, but Anjali, all this stuff, this background, really, really good. We're here to talk about the Rakow Commission and get the sneak peek into it. And so you're going to tell us more about like what it is specifically in a little bit, but can you start by telling us what it's based on and about? Can you show us some pictures of some things?
Yeah, I'd love to. So yeah, you pull the picture up. So the work I'm doing for the Rakow Commission is based on the palaces of mirrors. They're also called the Sheesh Mahals. Sheesh means glass, and Mahal means palace. These are monuments found in the South Asian subcontinent. They came in originally from Persia, or, supposedly, except that they sort of got intermingled with Rajput and other more Indian-ish groups, and then became their own little thing. And I used to visit these forts and palaces when I was much younger. I visited the ones in Amer and Jaipur and Agra. And they were pretty incredible. They are actually chambers that are studded completely on the inside in the most intricate pattern with convex glass mosaics, reflective mosaics. And so what they do is, if you could go to the next slide, please. If you stand in the middle and you light a candle, you're going to see 100 bazillion stars around you, which is incredible. Imagine yourself to be 8, standing in this giant cavernous place with the most amazing symmetrical arches, and everything's just sparkling around you. It is inspiring, and that is something that has stayed with me throughout. Next slide, please.
What's the video?
So this is a short video, so I'd like us to watch this, and then I can tell you about it. apart from being one very angry king there. But just so you know, in the next scene of this movie, he basically sticks that lady behind a wall alive and kills her. That's the movie. That's how the movie goes. Never mind. Okay. But as you saw in that video clip, each mirror shard in the Sheesh Mahal acts like a little cell, and it reduces the reflection of that person standing in the chamber to a very small entity. I find that super interesting because as human beings, we're so used to being focused on ourselves that to encounter a space where you are nothing more than dust, where your entity is really, really small, to me is fascinating. And on the other hand, when you hold a lamp in your hand, that specular reflection held in each cell is multiplied many times over, as you saw in that video. And there's this hypnotic wave pattern that goes across that chamber and illuminates it. I find that just phenomenology of that space to be super inspiring, because what it told me very young on, and not consciously because I wasn't able to articulate till I went to RISD, was basically that if I'm a person who stands very still, I'm not going to see myself anywhere because I'm going to be as small as dust. You can't see me. But the minute I move, the minute I hold light in my hands, the minute I actually act, I am going to be so many times bigger. I can affect change. I can touch my surroundings. I love, like, for me, that was just like, I'm a very romantic, mushy person too. So that was just like, oh, that is so beautiful. That's such a good way to think about humanity. And also, I mean, as a glass geek, it's a very, very interesting way to look at how optics can sort of embody a spiritual paradigm, a sort of lesson for how to inhabit your space. So that's where the piece started, with the idea of the Sheesh Mahal. What made me want to work with the Sheesh Mahal is a fact that in 2000, the Latur earthquakes, well, they happened. And the nomadic community that used to practice this craft, which means they used to travel between Rajasthan and Gujarat on the west side of India, and they would embed convex mosaics into, they would actually make spheres, break them, cover them with lead or tin, break them, and then supply them to a different community who would then go and put them into buildings. That group of, I guess, people were disbanded. We don't know, they're lost. Like, basically, they're gone. This is a lost tradition. This is not something that I can see disappear into oblivion. So when I was researching this and I met Mr. Martan Singh, who was actually an erstwhile prince of some kingdom, I think Patiala, he became a conservationist and sort of was researching all the oral histories of that part of the country. And he and I were talking about what's there in glass. And he told me about this, and I tried to track them down, and I learned this about them, that they were mostly now rehabilitated to becoming rickshaw drivers, construction workers, like desktop operators, very far removed from what they did or what they knew, what they lived. And for me, that was really sad. Like, I remember crying for weeks about it. Like, oh my God, how could we let a whole section of the population just disappear and not even be noticed? Could we move on to the next?
Yes, but sorry, I need to interrupt. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Oh, please interrupt.
You know, this is off script, but you know, one thing I was thinking as you were saying that, obviously we've talked about this before, but so much of what you just showed us, you know, your introduction, going to villages, trying to come up with ways to employ craftsmen, you know, in a sense, I mean, this work about the Sheesh Mahal, spoiler alert, you guys, since there are no craftsmen left, Anjali is not commissioning the craftsmen to make parts for this. Anjali is making the parts for this. I mean, in a way, all this other work that you've been doing has been to like give attention and support to craftsmen. And here in this work, you have to take a different vehicle to bring attention to this lost thing. Interesting. I know that wasn't a question. Sorry.
Oh no, that's cool. I haven't thought about it that way.
Okay, but now tell us about these. You can make it big. I can disappear.
Oh, no. So I just wanted to put these images in because these are huts. So you can keep going on the slides. Yeah, these are not palaces. And I love the idea that you can have a Sheesh Mahal that's a mud hut in like villages throughout the Kutch area. This
Wait,
is,
actually, I wanted to like have you add one thing, which is, okay, so you started with this idea of Sheesh Mahal. You talked about Mughal palaces. Those are built in the 16th, 17th century. But then you showed us the video, the movie, which is like an important and very cool movie, and is important and known for the Sheesh Mahal section of it, which is from
1960 something.
Yeah. So like that this is I think what's important to note, and what you're showing us with these Kutch houses too, is that this is not like the idea of mirroring isn't fixed in one place or one time. It is like everything is everything, right? It's these mud huts, and the next one, right?
And the next one, and I have another clip coming up too. So if we could look at that. And so what's interesting to me, oh, here you go. This is the clip. So we also do a lot of mirror textiles in India. So it's not like the Sheesh Mahal phenomenon is stuck in the past with a Mughal thing that died with colonialism. It's also, you see in thatched huts, you also see it in textiles till date. The difference is that they are now made using flat pieces of industrial mirror because that community is gone. And for me, that's the part that's really, really painful. But that's kind of where this piece started for me, or this body of work started for me.
Oh, can you tell everybody what the name of the movie is?
So the first one was Mughal-e-Azam. What I will do is I will type the name in the chat window at the end. Or Susie, do you want to type it in?
Yeah.
Okay, Mughal-e-Azam. You know the name of the movie?
And the palaces we looked at, the dark one was Agra Fort. And
yep.
The other one was
first one was Lahore.
Yeah.
And the picture that I had next to the Mughal-e-Azam clip was the Amer Fort in Rajasthan.
You can spend some good time on Google. You really can spend some very good time.
There's some nice pictures. Like Flickr has a whole bunch of touristy pictures, which is kind of fun to see. You know, I actually went to the Agra Fort after a very long time last January, and now you cannot even enter the room. Like now they've just got these big iron barricades. You're supposed to look at the Sheesh Mahal from far away, and it's like COVID all over again.
Yeah, I mean, it's also. I would imagine the stakes of repair and preservation and all of that change when you don't have people to produce the work. And also there's only one book. There's only one book specifically about the Sheesh Mahal, Mirror Palaces, Palazzi di Specchio. That is in Italian and English, and it looks at the mirror palaces in India and in Iran. But it's amazing. Like in there, they talk about this is a totally understudied area of architectural practice, and they they posit that it might be understudied because it's like the mirroring itself seems kitschy. But I think you make a great argument for.
Well, now it's gone and I miss it. So
yes, I mean, the thing is, like, it's important to note it's everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. There's also modern versions. They're all the things. So you just showed us the textile.
And I wanted to show you maybe some early experiments so you see where this piece is coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, so could we go to the next slide? So when I started out, I was literally trying to recreate. So I was learning the technique. I was sort of doing it on architectural surfaces, murals, doors, found objects. I was literally trying to do what they had done. And then I learned, if you could go to the next slide, this was a like a discarded milk jug that I actually did the Sheesh Mahal way. This object was different, and this literally changed the way I look at things because, you know, the plastic of the milk jug is flexible. And so when I poke it, it actually moves. the wall actually moves like skin. And that was a huge flip for me in my head. I was like, well, I don't want to reproduce this. I don't want to pay homage to this community that was lost and say, oh, look how sad. Oh, look, I'm trying to preserve it. I literally wanted it to come alive, and I wanted it to be relevant and so engaging today that we will not let it go. You know, like I wanted to rebuild it. So if we could take a look at the next piece of work. So this is a video, and I'm going to talk through it. I learned that if you could make the glass flexible, you could make it breathe. You could make it inhale and exhale. You could surprise people. What it does is it flips this idea that glass is an inflexible, fragile, impermeable, non-porous material. It also provides a relationship to the process I'm invested in glass blowing to make these pieces in a way that I can reach the audience. Next.
Wait, sorry.
Yes, come
Doesn't
on.
it also, I mean, we can talk about it here too, but doesn't it also reinvest the surface, like by making the glass by engaging the glass in that way and by deforming the surface of it, like that it moves, isn't that sort of trying to reinvest that, what did you say? Optics can embody a spiritual paradigm, you know, that you change the way people, like the object is, but you are also changing the way people see themselves and like the material transformation, what glass can do, but also the way they're reflected too, or no?
Absolutely. And I think the difference in what I'm doing with this flexible glass is that I'm not following the, you can play the video, Scott, that's cool. I'm not, and you can hear the crackly sound while I talk. It's really disturbing to Susie. It embodies the optics, but I'm not trying to replicate. I'm not trying to follow Persian or Mughal patterning. I'm allowing the breaking of the glass, the handling of us breaking the glass to create the reflective lenses, to create the optics. And I think that's where the work shifts for me.
Yeah. And
yeah, so this is kind of what the Rakow Commission is based on this year.
Yes, it brings that. I mean, it brings all of these different things. The idea of bringing life into this lost material. You said that one time I said a good thing about how you're trying to like talk about the invisible hand, but I think you might remember it better than I do. I'm saying it in case you feel like there's somewhere to go with that. But otherwise, why don't you, okay, so you like, here is where you started with the Sheesh Mahal, you started with the architecture, this untouchable architecture. I mean, not untouchable in the untouchables, not in the caste sense, but I mean, far away, far
in the past,
away.
dead, gone.
Yeah, and now even impenetrable. And then, this trying to get a sense of what it could be by like reproducing it and realizing that the reproduction wasn't the thing. And then you have moving and body. And do you want to show us what the piece is going to be?
I would love to show you folks stuff. Okay.
You guys are still gonna have to use your imagination.
Yes. Please remember, it's still in progress. I'm still trying to figure things out. So, this is
should we do this first or go to the rendering? What do you want to do first?
Let's show the rendering. I think actually let's do the rendering first. Might be useful. Oh, there's the rendering. So our plan is to make a very large wall panel. I'm returning to architectural surfaces that where the front is this reflective glass that embodies the phenomena of the Sheesh Mahal, except that we're going to build it in 3 parts. A skin in the front, a skeleton.
I can just say, this is not our plan, this is happening. I just want to be clear.
Oh yeah.
In process.
It is right behind me.
Yes.
It's going to have it will have a skeleton behind it, like our bones have skeletons, like architecture needs to have skeleton, like the skeleton of a history and a people long gone. It's going to have that skeleton behind it, which is going to have a bunch of electronics, which I'm going to do a little demo for you folks, that sort of simulate a human breath. And hopefully when the idea is that when the audience comes in front of that panel and starts to look at their reflection and notices that they look really small, the panel will breathe back at them and remind them that it is much bigger, and they'll be inspired to move and be inspired to do something.
While we're looking at this, sorry, that's so beautiful. Let's give that a moment to be like, that is such a beautiful idea.
That is such a beautiful
Look at this
thought.
thing, see that we are both small, but that our smallness has action on the world, and that we are important, and that by moving, by doing, we create more importance in the world. That is a beautiful thing. I don't want to roll over it. So see, maybe this is a good time to just move your arms around like I'm moving my arms around, just so you remember you have a body. It's nice to move. Anjali's giving you an invitation. So am I. While we're looking at this rendering, before we go into your studio, like, okay, so the image on the left that looks like crumpled tinfoil is going to be a reflective mirror, and you're going to show us some more of that. Then
Yeah, it's going to be this.
The image in the middle and on the right, what is that? And is anybody ever going to see that? Or is this like basically pretty special for the people that are right here?
This is actually, no one is going to see this. Hopefully, if I do this piece right, no one is going to see it, right? It is actually, I have a prototype here that's being built where that's the skeleton I was talking about. We'll have little sections where the electronics fit in. And then each of these sections, I'm putting cellophane, but like each of these sections sort of inhale and exhale for the person. So no one's actually going to see this framework. What they're going to encounter is essentially this. They'll encounter a giant wall of this.
Which is so beautiful. And you're going to show us in a second, like how it's so beautiful. But actually I wanted to, what I was trying to get at, and can we put that picture back up? Is that the skeleton, the skeleton is not like by accident, you know, it's not by accident, this shape. The skeleton is based on something. And do you want me to say what it's based on, or do you want
Sure, go for it.
This is good. This is like a nice handoff. Usually the artist isn't here and the curator just says what it's based on. Now I can say what it's based on and she can correct me. And then you guys can know.
You know what it's based on.
It's based on the architecture this Islamic influenced architecture, Mughal architecture. So you won't see it, but that OG, half OG type arch is drawn from the Agra fort or Amer?
Yeah. No, it's Agra. It's Agra fort.
From Agra fort. And so that was a big revelation, right? In the process of thinking through what is this work going to be. All things develop over time, and realizing that it should have this structure and that the structure should be drawn for something is an important part. So that structure that you see is going to provide the framework, as Anjali said, like the skeleton, like the ribs that allow the breathing to happen. So I just want to make sure you got that. Now let's go into your studio.
Yes, let's do that. Okay, so these are the ribs. Right now they're straight because I can't sit and bend foam core for no reason. But ideally, this is the framework if you imagine it as the arc. And I would have electronics sitting here, and each of these would sort of inflate and not inflate. All right, so we've got a surface that looks like this. And these are very responsive to light. So I'm pointing it to the ceiling, and you can see how it changes. It looks very ripply. And then if I place it here and I put my hand in front of it, you see how my hand's like looking, it sort of multiplies. So it has a very interesting and very engaging phenomena. Now, I'm just going to show you the back of this. This is, again, a simulation.
What is it made of?
So the front is all blown glass. So I actually blow really large eggshell thin balls of glass, and I break them, silver them, and then break them and coat them with a silicone. So on the back side, you have a silicone that I'm actually really thrilled to be working with Leanne in conservation to find a silicone that's conservation friendly and archival and can be, like it's really interesting to go there and make work that's eroding, but still conservation friendly. And that's a whole other conversation to be had. But essentially, we're looking at this. I'm just going to do this for you one more time. We're looking at that along the ribs of the piece, right? And ideally all at the same time.
That's so cool.
So that's what I'm doing here. And someone I noticed had a question of how are you doing this or something. So I'm gonna.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's some questions. Can we do questions before I move to
Yeah.
electronics?
Yeah. Sorry.
See something going on here.
Oh yeah. So many people ask so many good questions. Sorry, I missed
Okay.
them.
I'm gonna put this back.
One is, how do you make the glass skin, which I think maybe you just said, and is it like, what size will it be? I can answer that.
I think you should go for the size. I just brought you another piece to show you how I make the skin.
I believe 6 feet tall by 4 feet wide. So in non-COVID times, you can stand there with a friend who's pretty tall. And it will be in the new wing, so it'll be up on a 4-inch deck. So it's direct view good for people up to 6'4". And it'll be some inches deep. What else? Will there be different colors reflected in the piece?
Originally I had been looking at different colors, and I had been testing. I'll just show you this swatch. This swatch was like a gold on this side and a silver on this side, and I have another one on in my studio over here.
Wait, show that to us again. Don't do it so fast. That's so cool.
Okay, I'm trying. This one's gold. I can't.
Yeah, neat.
Tell, right? Yeah, there you go. Now you can see it's gold going to silver. And originally I was like, well, I might want to create some of those beautiful Mughal patterns in gold going on silver. But then it just felt very dishonest and very unbreath-like. A human body that's breathing doesn't really have flowers going all over it.
Right.
That to me means that you put something else on my body and that has a print, and I don't want that between the piece and the viewer. So no, it is hopefully going to be all silver, like the original Sheesh Mahal is all silver.
Yeah, and these are all conversations that we had over a lot of time figuring out what is this. Anjali, have you ever made a piece quite like this before? That's like a big piece that breathes on its own?
No. I actually haven't made anything architectural with which is kind of odd. Architectural with this body of work on a large scale, especially with the breathing. That's never happened.
So there's all these questions, figuring out like, okay, is this thing going to have color? Is this thing going to have pattern? That's, those are things. Those aren't. I wouldn't say. Like, we're certainly not deciding that together. These are Anjali's choices, but those are, conversations that you and I had over time, oh, like, think about this, think about that. What, that's part of the process of making the work. Okay, 2 more questions before. One is a processual question. What do you add the silicone before you break the sphere or after?
Before I break the sphere. There is no way I would get the sort of really tight knit breaking pattern with the lenses if I did it after. So I make the ball, I silver it, I put the silicone in, coat it, get really angry at the world, and I break this thing, and I get like this really beautiful break mark, and then I'm able to cut it like yardage.
That is so cool. And then how do you put it together? Like, how do you put?
I create skins. I just make skins. All that craft knowledge that I was talking about, all the times I went to the leather guy's place a long time ago and watched them like convert leather into bags and shoes. I'm like, that's how you seam 2 things together, and that's how you cast it to make it look seamless.
Cool.
So yeah, so I make yardage basically. So I would make a 6 foot by 4 foot piece of glass fabric, as I call it. Yeah.
And how thick is it?
They range from about a 1/16 of an inch to about an 1/8 of an inch.
Okay. And okay, so here's another question that's about what we're looking at, which is in the rendering. Could you talk about the ball that looks like a heart? And I think you are going to talk to us about the ball that looks like
so the ball's no longer in the picture. We don't want a ball anymore. That was when I thought I needed a rotary motor for the action. Then I was like, I don't need a heart that's actually moving and causing like a weird bone movement. So no ball, but there is a heartbeat.
Yeah, tell us about the heartbeat. How do you make this thing? How does it live?
How does it live? Okay,
yeah.
So I got a little setup here. This is again like super Basic, okay. So what we're going to have is this piece is going to be powered by these beautiful, beautiful solenoids that took me only 4 months to get in COVID time. They're used in ventilators in hospitals. So they're very, very quiet. And what they do is essentially, I'm going to just show you a demo if you can see that. Here, I'm going to place that over here so you can see it. Okay. Goes out and it goes back in. Can you folks see that? All right. So ideally, what would happen is this part would be in that skeleton right here. And this would be the front of the piece. Ta-da!
Cool.
Right? And then so I would essentially, well, I can't do that now. And then this would fundamentally just move out and move back in very, very slowly. So what I have is like a little microcontroller here with a program that simulates a heart. If you want to pull up the slide with the oscilloscope where I have the little heartbeat. Oh, there you go. So a lot of my tech support is courtesy a colleague at MassArt, the advantages of working at a school. They're like, he's helping me figure out exactly the nuances of the tech. But essentially, we're programming a heartbeat reaction through this chip onto this board, connecting it to a solenoid, and then giving it a surface that pushes the silicone in and out. And the most, this is like the electronics part. The most interesting part is for me to go and then get the solenoid to do the same thing. And then look at that little ECG looking thing, the little oscilloscope, and go, oh, that's what the heartbeat of my sheesh mahal piece looks like. It's totally geeky, but I'm like, ooh, this is kind of cool.
I mean, I thought this was already, you know, obviously we started these conversations before COVID, but I thought this was already kind of the best COVID piece that is about, you know, this like space and breath and connection over space and across long distance from where you're viewing it to the Sheesh Mahal in India, all of that. But now to know that even in the process of it, it is like, it's a meditation and meditation process during the making of it seems like a great thing. Every Rakow Commission should involve like some very focused study of the breath to make everybody cool.
Or of the year they're inhabiting, what's special about this year?
Yes.
And what should you do to deal with it? So anyway, so that's kind of how the piece is hopefully going to breathe and hopefully have a very genuine sort of response to people.
So and somebody asked, oh, first of all, somebody got so excited about Arduino. So
of course, yay Arduinos.
And somebody else wanted to know if there's going to be multiple solenoids or just one.
So this is something I need to research. This thing is really powerful. Originally, I had planned for about 15 solenoids to fill each of those, the framework grids. But it turns out that each of this solenoid is powerful. So most likely right now, I'm trying to engineer arms instead of just this like little blob thing. I would have an arm that, so if the solenoid was sitting here, I might have an arm going section 1, 2, and 3, and the solenoid powers all 3. So I might land up using 1 or 2 solenoids that work together to create the response. So I might actually, yes, I might hopefully reduce the number of solenoids because that would be good for power consumption. But I don't know the answer to that. In progress.
We have just about 5 more minutes. And I guess I want to know if, Anjali, you have more things you specifically want to say. People out there, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes to get in your questions. So get in some questions if you'd like. I mean, that's the, oh, are they going to be solenoids going to be synchronized or have different cycles? How is this thing, how are you thinking about it right now?
So right now I'm thinking they need to be synchronized because I need the Sheesh Mahal, the archway, to be one body facing one person, like be one person breathing back at another. So right now I'm thinking synchronous. I did look at some options where each thing goes differently, but that feels more like a dancing monkey to me, honestly. It feels like, oh, look, that's so cool. If I go here, this one moves. And if, you know, I'm like, and not so into that, different place, maybe like a different commission, but I
Yeah.
just want this to be a very slow and attentive engagement where you really feel the breadth of that thing that's lost. I would feel very happy if that would happen. So I'm thinking synchronous right now.
Okay, and people want to say, okay, will it, I will answer one. When do we think it will be finished and on display? My friends, it's something to look forward to in the early months of 2021. So stay tuned to all CMoG channels for more info, because around when it's installed, we will also have Anjali back for for a more full exploration of her work, which if you like this, you're gonna love that, because I love every single time Anjali works.
And I don't wave my arms around as much and jump around as much in my studio when I do that talk.
Oh,
just much, yeah, maybe not. Okay, maybe I'll start doing that now.
People want to know what the people want to know, is this going to have sound, and they want to know, will short people, small kids, they say, but I would say also people in wheelchairs be able to be reflected in this?
Yes.
Debated.
Yes. The short answer is yes and no to sound. I would like the only sound to be the sound of the person breathing, the person, not the piece.
And the loud artworks nearby.
Oh, there's a loud artwork nearby.
Not nearby, but you know, they're around. What else? 5:56. And oh, this was a good one. This one, I like this question. It's somebody with must have like a pretty good sense of these things. Wants to know, what's the lifespan?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I made a glass dress. The first glass dress that I made was in 2007, and I wore it for about 4 years before it sort of wasn't wearable or interesting when I wore it anymore. The second glass dress that I wore, and I'm saying glass dress only because I was wearing it and I was breathing every time I wore it, obviously. So it was doing the same thing this piece will hopefully do on display. And I feel like I would say I'm going with like 6 years before we replace the skin. And that's something that's really been interesting with the Rakow, is talking about work that needs a refresher after X number of years, maybe 5, 10 would be great. I'm going with 6 right now on a more conservative lifespan. But that's the lifespan of the skin, because what's interesting about the skin is the more you interact with it, the more it's going to stretch, right? The more it stretches, the more air is going to go in between the glass and the silicone, which means the silver is going to get oxidized and aged more. So it's almost like if you don't interact with it, you'll have a piece that lasts forever and nothing happens. Do you want that? No, we want a piece that breathes at us. But if you do that, know that you're also living and dying at the same time. So I don't know. Detract from the life question.
I think those, like, thinking about those questions, the fact that you're thinking about those, the fact that the museum, you know, that our collections teams, that our conservation teams are engaged on those questions, are interested in engaging on those questions, I think is really, I mean, it's been pretty cool for me to be part of these conversations and to be thinking about, like, exactly what you talk about, you know, where the where art making is, where it's going, where, you know, what are the ways that we think about glass? They're bigger than we even know. So I love it. And maybe this is a good place to even though I don't want to leave, a good place to keep, to kind of close things up. Maybe we can, do you want to say anything before I say goodbye to everyone, Anjali, or do you just want to say goodbye with us?
Stay warm and stay safe, and come visit us next year. I'm very excited for this piece.
Yeah, I'm so excited for it too. So if you want to be in, like, maybe in gallery mode, you know, you can listen. Let me just encourage you to take yourselves off mute and say, "What a great job! Oh, good job! Thanks so much."
Fantastic job! Yay! Well done.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you so much for being here with us. I hope to see you in person soon. We hope to see you at the next virtual event. I appreciate you coming to this special Fancy Dancy members preview. More, come to more. I love this. So thank you very much. And thank you, Anjali.
Oh, of course, it's been a joy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
What a beautiful thing. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.